Hey everyone, it's Mayday here from YMV Health and Wellness, and tonight I'm joined with my fellow friend Charlotte, who is the Outreach Oosh coordinator and manager at the Ways Bondi for the youth group there. How are you, Charlotte?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you so much for having me, Maydad. I'm really excited to be on here this evening, and have a chat about the work that I do at Ways. Um yeah, so I'm the Ocean Outreach Manager at Ways. I'm lucky enough to be 5 minutes away from the beach. So lunchtime can go out for a little walk. And so what the Ocean Outreach Manager role entails is Ush is like out of school hours care, so after school care or vacation care. And I get a chance to run that program with children a little bit older, like 8 to 12. Um, they're a bit fed up of being at school all day. We pick them up and we take them to our building in Bondi, where we have skate ramps on the rooftops, playground, and we get to do lots of fun things, including coming to your boxing gym. And then the outreach role is for that older age group. So I get to look after the program where in summer we go out and outreach to young people and talk about the things that concern them, whether it's mental health or other areas of health, and just point them in the right direction. And I also get to do lots of fun events with young people, young business owners, or volunteers. We've actually got a market stall this afternoon, and not this afternoon, this weekend,
This weekend.
where we've got young people who are going to be performing and young business owners. We get to give them a chance of being entrepreneurial. So lots of diverse things in my role, but I really enjoy it.
And commend you, kudos to you for all the great work that you do, as Carlos
Thank you.
from Waverley Council was saying. He's joined us here tonight as well because he really wants to hear what you've got to say. And we all commend you for all the great work that you do. And it's before we start, if you could tell me a little bit about your journey, your background, where you came from prior to getting involved with all this stuff, because we can talk about all this stuff.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit about your journey. So if you could share that, because some of our viewers are not here tonight and they're going to watch this back, and it'll be good to share with them some of the things that you've been through.
Definitely. So mine's a bit of an interesting journey. You might hear from the accent that I'm not originally from Australia. I'm from the UK. So I studied, I always wanted to work with children from a young age. So even from the age of 16, or probably even going back 14, 15, 16, I was volunteering, or, the school I was in, it was very big on like volunteering and giving back. And so yeah, from between 15 to 16, even 14 to 18, I volunteered in local primary schools. And then I also volunteered and worked in an outdoor education center. And that was amazing. I was setting up zip lines and like setting up like abseiling, and I had that sense of responsibility, and I was working with other young people who, might have not been exposed to you know, great
Environments.
start in life. We had some children coming through actually from Belarus, from Chernobyl, and they'd come in and barely any English, and we just had to sort of, you know, direct them. And so yeah, so from a young age, I was involved in helping young people from a wide variety of backgrounds. But yeah, from a young age, I knew I wanted to work and help people. So I went on to study psychology, a psychology degree. Um, then yeah, whenever I had the chance to, I would do like opportunities of volunteering or working. So I was a support worker in an autism organization. And then I actually worked for an addiction organization. Um, Went and lived in Sri Lanka and taught English there. And always knew that I wanted to come to Australia, but the original plan was just to pop over for 1 year, just to pop over, do my working holiday visa. And I sort of ended up going into after school care because a friend suggested that, oh, it's a really, it's really fun. You hang out with the children, or you get to go on excursions. And I just applied for an agency role, and within like the week they were like, we love you, we want you here. And so then after that, um that first company ended up sponsoring me, and I ended up becoming a manager because because I'd had so much experience of managing, like, or writing lesson plans or doing activities, they knew straight away that, oh, she can manage a group of children. And because I'd had that experience working with adults and with children who might have like additional needs, I was able to sort of support those programs. And so yeah, I ended up at Ways 2 years ago. I love the flexibility that this role has because I can lean upon my different skill sets, not just with children, but the skill sets that I have from different roles. And yeah, so it's just a want to help people and children, and I've ended up here.
Amazing. And um, one of the things that I noticed that you and Carlos really have in common is that you always like to give. You give so much of yourself to the community. I notice Carlos does it a lot with the work that he does, but I notice that every time with your kids, when you bring them in, it's not just a matter of bringing them in, but it's a matter of the way you communicate with them, the energy that you give them, and then creating that space for them, not just in my gym, but creating that space for them when you transport them to different places and when you actually have them at Ways. So yeah, I couldn't commend you so much for the great work that you do. So if anyone wants to learn more about what you do, they could just visit you at Ways or call
Mhm.
Ways, which we'll get into
Yeah.
at the end of this live Zoom. But Charlotte, can you tell us a little bit about, I know we've spoken a little bit about it, but can you tell us
Mhm.
a little bit about the work that you do there with the young ones and
Mhm.
then with the youth?
Yeah, so in terms of the after school care and vacation care program, yeah, as I said before, we collect children from lots of different schools in the local Bondi area, and then we bring them back to the building here, and
So
it's sort of
you actually go to the school in a car and you pick them up in that little
yeah,
bus that you
we've
bring
got
to
like
my gym.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
that's amazing.
We've
That's
got our
amazing.
mini buses
Yeah.
with Ways on them, and the children get really excited. We've had one of the children sing reword the Venga Boys bus is coming and the Ways bus is coming. They sang that version. Yeah, so we might do like a walking bus. So Bondi Beach Public School, it's not even 5 minutes walk away from us, and so we walk down there and we walk them back up as a walking bus, and then if there's schools that are further away, we'll use the minibus and pick them up, and their friends are often excited and they're like, oh my gosh, you're going in the Ways bus, and bring them back and feed them, and then we'll get on to different activities, whether that's like, when we go to boxing with you, or whether we've planned activities, and we usually plan those activities based on their interests. The whole goal is that it's like, it's their time after school. It's
Yes.
learning through play, learning social, emotional skills, and just like skills for life. So we'll do a lot of like baking, but it's not just like we're going to do the activity. Like I'll get them to do all the planning. We do like Master Chef. So we'll go to Woolworths, and before going to Woolworths, they have a budget and they have to, and I'm really strict with the budget because
Yeah.
in life you can't go, 50 cents. So if you haven't got that money, you haven't got that money. So
Yeah.
it's actually like, I'm like, no, that's your budget. What are you going to have to remove from that? And so those are skills that I know that parents really want support with. And we integrate like technology use into our program because the world that we live in, it's like they're growing up with it, and it's about, okay, instead of we're not like leaning on it too much, but it's like, how do we integrate it so then children know how to use it and have that skill set to work with it rather than just avoiding it. So yeah, we're sort of like, we'll bring a few of those what we might call like higher risk activities in, because it's like we want to support them to learn, you know, how to manage it. And yeah, just life skills. Like we've got that little young entrepreneur program where they create their own business. They will, buy the resources, and then they'll come down to Bondi markets and sell their resources, and they'll learn how to make an invoice. And yes, so we're very sort of skills based, but it's all like based on what they enjoy. So it's not like academic the same way that school is, but it's like, things that they will really enjoy and be of benefit. And we do a bit of like conflict resolution, when things come up, we'll help them to manage that. We try and like get them to work it out, because that's a skill set you need as an adult. And if they're able to start building up that skill set as their children, they'll be set for life. Um, yeah, and
Yeah,
then the big.
that does come up. I noticed it even when you're at my gym,
Mhm.
and whether they're arguing who's going to have the red pair of gloves or the black pair of gloves, they're arguing about a spot or a bag or something like that. And
Important things in life, right?
yeah, just little things like that, really
Yeah,
important.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, and then we're lucky enough to have like an excursion-based program. So a lot of the time we're out in the community. So we've been going to Yochi and then doing like going to the skate park recently, and they've just really enjoyed it because it's very different from what they might do in like an after school care program that they'd have in school. So we are a smaller, more intimate center, and that means that, relationships with the educators are a bit easier than a center which has got like 100 children in. It's so
Yeah.
easy for children just to get lost in that, you know. Of course, there's lots of friends for them to play with there, but yeah, we're very much a connection driven um service, and we want to be sort of like a safe environment, like an emotionally safe environment, and we can definitely cater to those children that might need a little bit, you know just like that extra sort of, time, just to sort of, because some children, when they've had a long day, they don't want to be a swarm of 100 children. They, having that sort of about 15 children, it's really nice.
That attention that you give them and you
Exactly.
get you their ability to connect. And if anyone doesn't know about Ways in North Bondi, the facilities are amazing. I mean, the rooftop alone, how many things can you do on the rooftop? You've got basketball there, you've got skate
Yeah.
park, got
Yeah.
tennis, you've got indoor soccer. You could do so many things up there, and it's
Yeah.
such a great place for them to be active. And the great thing
Mm.
about this is the kids' attention span at that age is can only run for so far. So they'll do
Mm.
something for 15 minutes and they'll move on to something
Move on
else.
to
And that's
exactly.
a great thing about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're quite lucky with the rooftop. Get some beautiful sunsets there when we're finishing work. Um, but yeah, so yeah, we have the basketball up there and the skate ramps. We had parkour a few terms ago, and we'd use the skateboard ramps as, a way to, jump across when we were doing parkour. Um, so yeah, we're quite lucky to be able to like use that space quite innovatively. And yeah, we've got skate equipment there as well, so the children can sort of get involved. And yeah, we have that downstairs, in the downstairs space. We've got like a pool table and ping pong sort of table that sort of you can remove the top off and switch it up. And we're right next door to a park that we use as well. So it is a high school during the day, but it sort of gives that sense of it's not quite the same as a usual school, and it's a different environment to what they're used to being in all day. So they feel a bit mature. They're like, oh, it's a high school, and they feel really like, oh yeah, I'm getting to go to Ways. So it's a big step up for some of the children. They feel like they get really excited that they're getting to go away from school.
I think they
And
have a sense of belonging. This is
Mm.
one thing that, sorry to interrupt, but Charlotte,
No,
once,
no, no.
once upon a time I was asked to go to Ways to talk to the kids,
Hmm.
and talk to the ones that were doing high school certificates, etc.
Hmm.
And a lot of them were asking about me, and what I do. And
Mm.
when I said that I had learning difficulties, and it was a guy called John Gilbert who used to work with you guys going back a
Mm.
while ago,
Yeah.
who recognized that I was intelligent, but I just didn't know how to learn because the traditional way to learn by
Mm.
reading books, that just wasn't for me. But I
Mm.
had a whole heap of different life smarts. Like visually is how I learn, physically is
Mm.
how I learn, And when I went to Ways and you guys invited me over there, so not only as a senior ranger, but someone that struggled at school but yet
Mm.
became a councillor for Randwick City Council, was the senior ranger for Waverley Council, and I was like, I don't sit there and just point fingers. I try to find solutions and
Mm.
find a way of people actually engaging. And with you guys, what I loved about Ways is the sense of belonging to something that's not hard.
Mm.
Like people like you, Charlotte, they're they don't come to people that often, but when you do, the experience and the touch that you have for for the people that associated and linked with you is just incredible. Like I walked out of Ways that time and I had people writing to me and calling me at Randwick City Council saying, we want a BMX tracker, where how can we do this? We want a motorbike tracker. And I was just guiding them in the direction that, you can ask for the world, but just ask for what you really need and what you really want. But anyway, sorry to talk so much, but
No, it's interesting to
what
hear.
you do is incredible. And that was one of my greatest visits that I ever did when I was invited to talk at Ways to your, the kids that you have there. I walked out of there and I just felt, wow, I was just struggling a long time ago and I still am, but when I saw these kids, how they just felt that there was a place for them to learn their way and be patient, considerate, and it was incredible. But thank you. I won't talk anymore.
No,
No.
it's so
Thank you.
important to hear what you've got to say. Carlos, and I'm not just saying he's such an important member of the community because he does so much as well, But I think what Carlos and I can really relate to is that we used to go to the youth centre at Bondi Junction and North Bondi when we were kids. I think it was at Bondi Junction back then more than North Bondi because we were outgrown it somewhat. And back then we were breakdancing, we were surfing, we were riding BMX bike, we were skateboarding, we were getting up to all kinds of stuff. Most of the time we were into, getting into mischief, but we were really active. So we loved our sports and that. And I think the great thing when I look back at Ways, and there was a guy called Russell, and I believe Russell's passed on now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Rest in peace. He was a great bloke, Russell.
That was Russell Gilbert, wasn't it?
Russell King.
Russell King. Sorry, I got the name
No,
wrong.
no, all good.
Russell King, that's right.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Yeah. Top bloke. So Russell was one of the guys there that really, he looked after everybody and he gave so much of himself. And as far as I can remember, and now as an adult and as a trainer and as somebody who owns a prominent business in Bondi that has so many young kids come through, I feel so empowered, not in a gun-ho way, but in a way that I can look back onto my days going to school and going to the youth center, and back then it was called the youth center, it wasn't called Ways. And I can remember these adults keeping me in line and giving me some direction when I steered offline and that, and I got up to some mischief and that. And these young kids now are coming to my gym, and it's really interesting. I've been at my gym for 18 years, and to see these kids sometimes go from year 7, 8, 9, 10, go all the way up to year 12, do their HSC, and then take on apprenticeships. And then eventually, some of them now, since I've opened the gym, because as you know, I've been there for 18 years, are married and their parents. So I would have met them when they were about 12 years old, and now they're in their 30s, and it's just an incredible journey, and it's an incredible moment in life when I'm sure Carlos can relate to this, when we remember when we were young kids in Bondi growing up, looking up to the elders at like guys like Russell at Ways and in along the way in the community and them sharing their insight with us. And now we've been given that role and it's empowering and it really is rewarding to to have that, and to see that and experience that. But Charlotte, can you tell us a little bit about, I know how passionate and how much you love the work that you do, but if you can share with some of our audience, what are some of the things that you truly like about the work that you do at Ways?
Oh, I probably touched upon it a little bit already, but yeah, as I said before, I've got my psychology degree, and I think the mind and in terms of like behavior, there's so many different terms that we use nowadays. Like some people say behavior management or, but I suppose it's really supporting children in that skill set, that social emotional learning. I think it's so important. And it's like, I think in school, some schools there's a greater emphasis than others, but I just feel like in school there's such a structured setting and say they're one in a class of 30 and the teacher might be able to go over some social emotional learning, but really I don't think, they've got like a whole curriculum to get through, and I don't feel like they really get an opportunity to go through that. So I really love the fact that because they're in that setting where there's more free play, there's more interaction with their peers, or a bit of a, doesn't necessarily have to be the same age, like just that sort of differing age as well, because most of the time in life we're not actually interacting with people who are exactly the same age as us. School is like this setting where you're with everyone in the same age, but actually in life most of the time it's slightly different ages. And so the Oosh setting almost, or the after school care and vacation care setting, sets up children in that way, where they're actually interacting with people who might be 2 to 3 years younger or 2 to 3 years older, and they actually get a chance to interact, and manage those. If they're an older child, they might have to, like, understand how to be a little bit more patient with someone who's a bit younger, or a younger child might have to realize that an older child setting a boundary and they don't want them to be, continuing that behavior. And so it's supporting children to learn boundaries. And so one of my key things that I really enjoy doing is talking through with children. As adults we get to learn these amazing things, but if I'm able to set children up and help them with a skill set already, like, they're going to be way beyond where I'm very self-taught in a lot of these things, and I've had to manage, how do I set my boundaries with other people? How do I effectively be assertive? I think, it can be difficult to learn that as an adult, but if we're able to set up children like with things like that, in a nice way, be assertive in a nice way. I think it's, finding that balance of going, oh, I don't like it when you're doing that, I'd rather you do this. Yeah, I love being able to do those interactions. And really helping, instead of children that might initially respond physically, or children who might just get really upset and withdraw, like actually seeing that difference with children where they're able to tell others, like, and actually manage those. And yeah, I really like that sort of aspect, because you do see it's it is that sense of belonging. If you create a community where children feel they belong, then they feel like communicating that is a lot easier. So it's that whole sort of, it's a very holistic approach. I really like to use a method called conscious discipline. It's very much about the brain state. Are you regulated? Like, am I regulated first before I talk with the children? Or do I need a moment
I was just
to
gonna
breathe?
say the ability to be mindful.
Mm,
Mindful in saying, like, to be able to control your mind before you act. And then you
mm,
say the ability to empower and uplift the young by
mm,
educating them about something that they're doing wrong without offending them, without doing anything that is detrimental to their confidence and their
mm.
ability to continue to grow, and in the way that you share what they're doing wrong. Wow, I really watched you do that task, and I know you had a really good go at it and you were really passionate, you were excited about doing it. But you know what? I think if you took your time and sat back and perhaps got someone else to help you and engaged with somebody else to help you, two of you could have done it easier, and it would have been less stressful to do, and it would have been so easy to do. So you give them a chance to work with someone and find an easier way of doing it and completing it. And rather than saying, look, you shouldn't have done it on your own, it's a bit selfish.
Yeah.
And, and it's just so much more empowering, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah. I think as well, like, I'm really like, I try and model my behavior in a way that children are able to then um yeah, mirror that. And I will always try and be the first one if I've responded in a certain way. Like, I say to my staff all the time, I'm like, we don't have to be perfect. We just need to hold our hands up when we've made a mistake, if we've reacted, because we're humans. Like, if we're not um if if we are not if we continuously show that, like, that we're not able to manage that, well, sorry, what I mean is, like, if we only show like the perfect parts of us, then children aren't able to grow. Then it's better for them to actually see those moments that were like, hey, sorry, I probably spoke to you a little bit more sternly than I meant to. And then that means the children then learn when they can then mirror that when there's an interaction that they didn't like, and they can go, oh, I've seen Charlotte or another educator do that, so then I know to sort of how to say that, because if they don't see those interactions, how can then they respond in other scenarios? So yeah, I think it's really powerful stuff. I that's what I really enjoy, and I think, when I first started learning this, I also it wasn't just my interactions with children, it was also interactions with adults as well. And I think, yeah, there's definitely so much more of this that we can do in the world. Just being mindful, taking a pause, thinking about what is it that we actually need in that moment, and what would we rather someone else do in that interaction. um yeah,
Um,
it's
one of
gonna
the first,
change the
one of
world.
it is, and one of the first things I learned when I started studying behavioral science and delving into these different studies that I've been doing over the past few years is people are not their behavior. The behavior is an extension of that person's environment, and that shows so much with children. And you hit it on the head, Charlotte, in your ability to educate people and empower them
Mhm,
to want to be a great role model in a way that you want kids to model you.
mhm,
And sometimes we're not perfect.
mhm.
And even that in that moment we are perfect because they get to see us in our with our imperfections.
Mhm, definitely. Yeah,
Mm.
I think that's definitely the powerful stuff.
Are you not seeing my face because I'm driving? So sorry.
That's okay. Charlotte, is there any great things that we can look forward to coming up at Ways? I know we've spoken about some of the programs that I'd like to be doing with you with the dads and
Mm,
sons and mothers and daughters and that. And we've spoken about a lot of things. Can you share
mhm.
with some of our audience about any upcoming events? I know you spoke about um, the market day.
Mhm.
If you could share with us some of the things that are coming up.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So yeah, I'll just say about that market day just to be a little bit clearer as well. So we've got on Saturday, so Saturday the 12th of April, we've got at the Bondi Beach Market in Bondi Beach Public School. That's the event that we have for Youth Week. We've got, as I said before, the live musicians, a graffiti art, um, sort of demo, and yeah, some of the young businesses. So that'll be between 9 and 2 on the 12th of April. So that'll be a lot of fun, just to celebrate youth in Youth Week. And then vacation care starts on the 14th of April. And you'll
Wow.
be, yes, and on one of those days, we've actually got you doing a workshop at the centre. So we're showing our vacation care children boxing as well. So usually it's on a Friday that we go every Friday, and we'll come to your boxing gym. The children love it because they're just like, yes, I'm in an actual real boxing gym, and they get to have a session with my dad. Um, and sometimes we give them treats as well because it's a Friday. But yeah, in the vacation care program from the 14th of April to 14 after 14, 15, 16, 17, we've got the public holidays. I think our last day is I just have to look at my calendar. The 24th of April is our last day for the vacation care. So we've only got 7 days for this next one, but I believe one of those mornings you're popping in for the boxing, which will be really fun.
Yes.
Before we go to treetops, we're doing a bit of boxing. We're not doing it after because we'll probably be too tired after treetops. um,
I need their concentration.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I was like, do it in the morning. We'll get them with that discipline. And then yeah, as we were saying before, we're on Fridays. We're not just saying the children. It's just the children. We know how important it is for parents and their roles with children, in terms of um doing different activities. So we welcome dads to come along on Fridays. Just very briefly, this is something I've been sharing with our families, is that oxytocin, the bonding hormone, increases more for dads and for children when they play with dads. And oxytocin, the bonding hormone, that feel good sort of hormone, increases more with children when they have hugs with mums. And like, so if mums are more regulated and, calm, that's going to increase that oxytocin. And then when dads get to play with children, whether that's like roughhousing or doing the boxing, that increases. And that's why we've sort of said dads can pop along, or obviously families come in different forms. If another family member wants to come along, they can come along on the Fridays. We've had a sibling come along, an older sibling in high school, and it's been really nice for that sibling energy for them to feel that on Fridays. And then I'm trying to think if we've got anything else. I think that's it, really. I think that's enough for me to be doing.
You just do so much, don't you reckon, Carla? She just
Oh,
does
for
so
sure.
much. Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm sure there's a few things that you may have not mentioned in that because
Yeah.
there's so much going on. It's not just you. How many people, facilitators, do you have at the Ways Centre at North Bondi?
Yeah, so because we've got different, we've got the USH program, but we've got different departments. So it's quite like a wraparound. So we have a wellness team. So we have one psychologist and two case managers. So that department usually works with children or young people from the age of 12 to 25. So providing any sort of wellness support, or any case management, whether that's practical, like life support. We have the high school, and that starts from year 9 to HSC.
Can
As
you
you
can you tell us a little bit about the high school because this is really important.
mm,
Some kids just don't feel comfortable going to high
mm,
school, and I noticed there was one particular girl that was getting bullied for her attractive looks.
mhm,
A lot of other girls that were simply jealous of her looks and jealous of her ability. She was a gifted young lady,
mhm.
and because of that, she was
Think-
threatened. She was um, experiencing a lot of cyber bullies,
mm,
text messages, and different things on social media, which led her to not want to go to school anymore. And she ending up going to a place like the Ways at Bondi, and she did her high school, half of her high school studies at in that environment. Can you share a little bit about the great environment that you provide and
mhm.
what's available?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the high school, it starts from year 9 because it's at that point you've had about 1 or 2 years to, have a go of, a different school, and at that point you can sort of work out, those sort of larger schools might not work. So yeah, there's about approximately 15 to a class, so it's a lot smaller. Um so yeah, you've got year 9 to year 12. So yeah, you've only got about 15 in each class, if that. So it's a lot smaller. They have a classroom dedicated to that year group, and that means the teachers move around. And that means that, they've got their own space. They're not having to move around the school. They've got their own space. They've got their own, where they store their things. And um, yeah, there's just that sense of belonging, and that sense of like just, fitting in a little bit more, or just not having to like, because they're removing those barriers of having to move around a lot. It just settles where it might be a little bit more difficult in other environments. And they sort of know all the teachers. Teachers are spoken to on a first name basis. And so it just gives a whole different feel than the school, especially when schools have got hundreds, like you might have 100 and something in a year. Um, yeah, it just got a whole different feel. And then you've got the wellness team who work really closely with the school. So if they want to have a counseling session, um, or like ongoing support, or because if the young people know that the case managers or the psychologists in that day, they're able to sort of just pop in a little bit more, and just check in. So there's definitely that support that you might not necessarily have in larger schools. But yeah, it's definitely a very holistic approach, very sort of student led, and the best, what's supporting them. um yeah, it's phenomenal. It's independent, but it still follows what Nessa requires them to do. But yeah, and there's still high standards as well. But it's just, there's that additional support. There's just that more intimate.
More personal. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like anything in an education environment. If you can create a positive environment for somebody struggling, who's got anxiety, who might have some issues, who might have some experiencing some form of bullying or feeling a little bit like an outcast, and that they've got these places such as the Bondi Ways to go to and get, do their studies, can pursue their studies, and not be affected by any of the things that they were experiencing in high school, because not only is it a smaller group, but you get better attention, and you're not dealing with the distractions that you were confronted with at high school. But look, there's so much to take away, guys. Some key takeaways. We've got Youth Week on the 12th of April. I've been writing things down. People are not their behavior. The behavior is an extension of their environment. And this is so important with the kids who are suffering from an underlying issue. Could be they're a little bit more reserved, or they lack confidence because of the way they were brought up. It could have been something that's happened in the past. And these areas, these places like the Bondi Ways, a real haven, a real opportunity for them to not give up on their dreams and continue their studies and pursue their studies and end up going to university or pursuing some sort of career that they would not have if they just dropped out of high school. And also a topic that Charlotte brought up, she talked about oxytocin, the feel-good endorphin that young men and young boys and fathers feel and is released when they are playing together, when they're doing activities together, or when young girls or young men get a hug from their mother. And hugs alone release oxytocin. So what a great some great takeaways to take away. Charlotte, it's been great talking to you. I know you've got so much on your plate and it is getting late. If anybody wants to get in contact with you and learn more about the programs and the things that you run down there at Ways, how do they get in contact with you? Such things as your website, Instagram, your Facebook, mobile number, or anything you can share would be great.
Yeah, sure. So we have our I wonder whether so we've got our website, which is www.ways, Ways is WAYS, .org.au, and then /Oosh, so that's a OOSH, and that'll take you through to the after school care or vacation care program. We've got our vacation care program sort of live there, and there's an inquiry form that can be filled out, and that gets sent through directly to me, and then I will send you some further information on how to complete like an enrollment form, or I'll have a little chat with you first and double check what exactly it is that you want, just to confirm that what we're providing is gonna give you what you need, and then so there's just an enrollment form that's required and that's completed, and then we sort of do a little orientation as well. So I'll go through things, how to use an app, and you can once you're all set up, you can literally book in through the app and everything's done there. You get nice photos of if you want photos of your children, you get to see what they're doing. I was showing a parent on Friday, had some great videos of us doing boxing, and I was able to share that with families directly through the app, so you get real-time updates. And then if you need be, you can give us a call. I usually don't answer too much if I'm supervising the children and it's a number I don't recognize. So if it's after 2:30 till about 6, I usually might send a little message and just be like, hey, what do you require? And then I usually do respond in my admin. If it's a family that I know, I might respond. But if it's someone I don't know straight away, I prioritize supervision and engagement with children, and then I usually follow up when I get a chance to. But that phone number is 0423 056 900. And they're the best ways, or an email. So Oosh, OOSH @Ways, ways.org.au. So lots of ways to contact us.
Lots of ways to contact Ways
Lots
at
of ways.
Bondi. Hey,
Love it.
wonderful. Hey, it's so cool talking to you. It's good to see Carlos join us as well from Waverley Council. Carlos, it's always good to hear what you've got to say and see you. I know you're working long hours, and so it's great to have you here, and Charlotte as well. And
Thank you.
look, I look forward to seeing you and catching up with you and
Yes.
the group of youth this Friday, 4 o'clock at Bondi Boxing Gym. To everybody out there watching, have an amazing day, and we look forward to seeing you next week, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. Where
Just want to reach out to Charlotte just to say if you ever need anything. I work for Waverley Council. I've had some pretty, outrageous life experiences that I never thought would come my way because I was one of those ones that struggled to learn. But my life history, my ability to engage with people at all levels, you can reach out to me. mayDad will give you my details, and I'm more than glad to help. And if the world was full of more people like you and mayDad, I think would be, an amazing place. So thanks for everything.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Carlos. It's very kind words, and means a lot. And obviously, people like Charlotte and I know are not doing it for accolades and anything. We are so happy because when in doing the work that we do, because when we do this, it's a ripple effect. It just blossoms through the students, and it blossoms through their families, through their friends, through their friends' families, and before you know it, you've got this community that is just living in harmony, and it's just so good to see. But for anybody wanting to join us next week, I'll be joined with another special guest at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. Until then, have an amazing week, and we look forward to catching up with you next time. Take care, everybody, and have a
Take
good
care. Thanks.
Thank
day,
you.
guys.
Bye.